Buenos días. Es el viernes y son las 12. Hello, everyone. It's Friday and it's 12 o'clock, so it's time for Community Spanish, number 3 of 3, broadcasting Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12. We also have our Community French and Community Mandarin programs going on, so you can learn up to 3 languages on our Facebook page for the adult lessons. We also have Instagram Live going for French and Portuguese as well, so you can learn even another additional language with live lessons from Rola and on that resource. Now, I have one other really exciting announcement to make before I get into our today's topic for Community Spanish, and that is that we have actually just premiered our first e-course. So, you know, of course, Rola is known for their live classes, which we were doing in person, and now we're doing all online. We now have just premiered as of today our first e-course. So if you can't join a live class, or for some other reason you want to do it on your own schedule, on your own time independently, we now have our first e-course published for the first level of Spanish on Udemy. So if you would like to check that out, you're welcome to. If you go to our Google page, you will find a link to our course. So that's probably the easiest, most direct way to find if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. So we're super excited to have this resource out there, and we're going to be continuing to push out more material as we get more things uploaded. And so there's a lot of features on it, from readings to quizzes to videos, stories. It's a very kind of multimedia experience. So we're really excited to have this published now. So now people can take our courses, I said, independently or on their own time, and help expand the range of people learning from Rola, even if they're not joining our live classes. So, but without further ado, let's get into our lesson for today's Community Spanish. And so what we're going to be doing today continuing with our Repaso or review series, where we've been working on things that we've been learning over the past few months in these live videos, and going back to review and really deepen our knowledge and reinforce, make sure we're not forgetting, since we've learned so much together. So for the topic for today is we're going to be practicing not only translations, but specifically with different types of sentences. So we're going to be practicing with what's called affirmative sentences, negative sentences, and then questions. So we're kind of going to be playing with the format of our of how we put together our sentences. So we're going to be doing some of that practice together. So I'm going to, as always, share my screen. And then if you would like to check out this video for a little bit more review, after, we do always post the links to the videos that we make on our website on rolalanguages.com on the Facebook Live page of the website. So if you need to, if you want to come back to this video or check out other videos we have available, you can find all of the links there on our website. So without further ado, let's get into our exercise for today. So as I said, we're going to be practicing the different kind of forms of sentences. So what we have here, we're going to be doing, this is kind of a several step exercise, really, pushing our brains to their limit here. So we're going to be taking an English sentence, and we have to translate it to Spanish in a positive, that's the affirmative way. And then we're going to be making a negative version of the sentence, followed by a question version of the sentence. So we have 5 different sentences that we're going to work with together. So as usual, while I'm going to be walking you through the exercise, please participate as much as you can, as you feel comfortable to, and escribe tus respuestas en los comentarios abajo. So if you're watching this on Facebook or if you're watching this on Instagram, you're welcome to put your own answers in the comments below, so you can interact with me, so I can see how you're doing on this exercise. So let's get into our practice. So starting with numero uno. So again, we have the English, and we need to first put it into Spanish in a affirmative way, then a negative, and then a question way. So starting with the translation of this sentence, okay, so we have, we put the books in the backpack. So we do need to practice not only our verbs here, but also some of our vocabulary. So, número uno in the affirmative sense. So we, nosotros, nosotras. And again, I'm going to, as I've been doing with this Repaso series, I'm going to be going through and kind of walking you through the answers. But this is supposed to be a review of things we've done before. I am going to be doing the exercises from the perspective of expecting that you have learned this at least a little bit before. So I won't be going into like the most deep explanations, because this is supposed to be reinforcing things that we've already learned together. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through and give you a baseline explanation for each one so you can follow along. So for we have nosotros or nosotras, and then put the verb that there's different verbs we could choose, but the one that we've been practicing with most recently is the verb meter, and now we have to translate it, or transform it, excuse me, to go with the we form. So as we know, we need to then change the ending, which is for an ER verb is going to be hemos. And so all together we get nosotros metemos, and then we need the books. So here's where our vocabulary comes in handy. Los libros, for the books, and then in the backpack, en la mochila, okay, en la mochila. So that's our first baseline translation of this sentence. Nosotros metemos los libros en la mochila. So that's our affirmative sense. So now to translate that into negative. So as we've been practicing in our most recent previous videos, to make something negative in Spanish, usually all we have to do is put a no in front of the verb. So we just take the same sentence we had, nosotros metemos los libros en la mochila. Then all we're going to do to make this negative is say we don't put the books in the backpack. We're going to put the no in front of the verb metemos. So we get nosotros no metemos los libros en la mochila. Nosotros no metemos los libros en la mochila. Okay, and then for the last form, how to put this into a question now. So when we're making questions, essentially what we need to do is just to swap the verb and the subject pronoun to put this into kind of more easy to digest information. So in this, in our sentence here, in our example, we have nosotros is the subject pronoun, or the person who's doing something in the sentence, and the verb or the action word here is metemos. So in order to make a question, usually all we have to do is swap the person and the verb. So that's what we're going to do when we're speaking about yes/no questions. If we're talking about questions where we have to add who or what or when or where or why, that's one extra step of putting that in the beginning. But otherwise, it's the same process where we're going to just swap from the sentence structure. So here we're going to say metemos nosotros los libros en la mochila. And obviously, when I'm reading this out loud, you can hear my tone is going up to make sure it's clear that it's a question. But obviously, we can't hear the tone when we have it in writing. But just so you know how you would say it. So, metemos nosotros los libros en la mochila. Metemos nosotros los libros en la mochila. So again, we're switching our verb and our person. So instead of saying nosotros metemos, as we did in the sentence, we're swapping. So we're saying metemos nosotros los libros en la mochila. And if we want to go one extra step, it is possible, since in Spanish, all of our verb conjugations are unique from different persons. So like the one for yo is not the same the one as the one for tú. So because of this, it means that we actually can choose to leave the person out of the sentence if we want to. We don't have to say it, because when we hear the verb, because that verb is going to be unique to one person and one person only, generally speaking, it means that just by hearing the verb, we already know which person is there. So we don't actually have to say it. So if we wanted to rephrase this question, we could say, metemos los libros en la mochila, and we can leave nosotros out if we choose, just because the form metemos is specific and only goes with nosotros. So just by hearing metemos, we already know that it's dealing with nosotros in this question or in the sentence. So we have the choice to leave it out if we want to. But we don't have to. We can always include it. And it's certainly not incorrect to include it. And especially if there is a case where we need it, so in order to clarify or really understand who is referring to, then we should include it to make sure it's clear. So just one extra option. Okay, on to número dos. I break my watch. I break my watch. Okay, so starting with our basic affirmative translation. So I break my watch, starting with I, yo. Okay, and then the verb to break, romper is the infinitive, is to break. So we need to change it to go with the yo form. So it's going to be rompo, as we've been practicing with ER verbs. And again, if you do need a bit of review on this subject, you're welcome to go back and look at one of the previous videos on our website. I've been doing these verbs and over tons of videos, so you have a lot of different opportunities to check back if you want to get a little refresher on those. But for now, I'm just going to proceed ahead as if you know. So yo rompo, and then we need my watch. So my is going to be me. Okay, and then this is where we need a little bit of vocabulary, which we learned in a previous exercise, in a previous video. Watch is the word reloj. Okay, reloj. So all together, you get yo rompo mi reloj. Yo rompo mi reloj. And then to do a negative version of the same sentence. Okay, so again, we're going to just repeat the same words we already made and just add the one word no in front of the verb to make it negative. So instead of it meaning I break my watch, it's going to mean I don't break my watch. So yo no rompo mi reloj. Yo no rompo mi reloj. And then finally, for the question format of this, the interrogativa, now we have to say, do I break my watch? Again, making it to a question form. And as I said for the previous one, all we have to do is swap the person and the verb. So instead of yo rompo mi reloj, it'll be rompo yo mi reloj, rompo yo mi reloj. And again, we have the option to leave the yo out if we would like, because just by hearing the ending rompo, we know it has to be yo, so we don't need it, but we can always put it there just to clarify. So rompo yo mi reloj, do I break my watch? Excelente. Okay, on to número 3. He fears wild animals. He fears wild animals. Okay, so we know the word for he is él. Okay, so starting with that, él. Afirmativa, él. Okay, and then we learned the verb to fear is temer. Okay, temer. So the form going with él, as we've been practicing with the conjugation, is going to be teme, because el, ella, usted form ends with an e in the conjugation. So él teme. And as we've been practicing in the previous videos, temer is a verb that has a preposition a that has to follow it. So it's just something we need to know when we learn the verb. So él teme a. And then the last part, we need wild animals. Here's where our bit of vocab comes in handy. So we just have to know, or we need to look up in the dictionary if you don't remember this for wild animals. So it's going to be los animales, and then wild is salvajes. And because it's animals plural, that's why we need to add the s onto the end to make that also plural. So we have él teme a los animales salvajes. Él teme a los animales salvajes. Now, to make the negative form of this sentence, again, we're going to repeat everything we just used, but instead all we need to do is add no in front of our verb. So we have él no teme a los animales salvajes. Él no teme a los animales salvajes for the negative version. And finally, for the question form, again, we're going to be doing the same formula we've been doing for the past 2 sentences, where you just need to swap. Okay, so we're going to say, teme él, does he fear wild animals? Teme él a los animales salvajes. And again, we can omit the el if we'd like, because it's optional. So, teme él a los animales salvajes? Does he fear wild animals? We've swapped el and teme to make it into a question form. Okay, dos más. We have 2 more to go before we wrap up this video today. So, número 4, you all sell cars. You all sell cars. So for the you all, we're going to be using ustedes, but as we've said, I've said in many previous videos, if you would like to use the you all they use that's specific to Spain, which would be vosotros or vosotras, you can use that. But I'm going to go with ustedes because that's the word they use in all the other countries outside of Spain, represents the majority of the Spanish-speaking world. So I'm going to use that as my standard. So I'm going to use ustedes for you all, and then we have the verb to sell, vender. Vender is to sell, and then to make it agree with ustedes, we need to take off the er from the infinitive, add back the ending that goes with the ustedes or ellos and ellas form, which is in. So altogether we get ustedes venden. Okay, and then we need cars, which would be coches or carros. Those are 2 examples. Those are probably the 2 most popular words, but there are even more words actually that represent cars in Spanish. But here's just an example of one word. And because it's plural, we need to add the s onto it for coches to say cars more than one. So ustedes venden coches. Now, negative form. as we've been doing, just going to put no in front of the verb. So it's pretty simple. Ustedes no venden coches. Ustedes no venden coches. You don't sell cars. Ustedes no venden coches. And finally, for the question form, to ask, do you all sell cars? Do you all sell cars? Swapping the verb and the person, that will give us the question form. So, ¿venden ustedes coches? Or as I said, we could leave out ustedes if we choose, because the venden lets us know who it's about. But because venden is the conjugation shared by ellos, ellas, and ustedes, this is a good example where we should include ustedes just to clarify who we're speaking about, because in this particular form, it is possible for it to be another person. So this is where it's helpful not to drop the personal pronoun, so we know exactly who we're speaking about. Okay, last one. You break the door. You break the door. So now we have tú for you, and then break we had is the verb romper from a previous from I break my watch. We saw earlier in this exercise. We have so the verb romper for the infinitive, but now we need to make it agree with tú, which is we know the ending should be es for er verbs. By now we've been practicing this one a lot. So we have tú rompes, and then we have for the door. Here's our little bit of vocabulary: la puerta, la puerta. So we have tú rompes la puerta. Tú rompes la puerta. You break the door. Uh-oh. Okay, and now on to the negative form. Again, we're just putting the word no in front of the verb. Tú no rompes la puerta. Tú no rompes la puerta. Just with the addition of a little no. And finally, the last one, to translate this into a question, a way to ask, do you break the door? Do you break the door? Okay. So again, swapping the verb in the person. So it's going to be rompes tú la puerta? Rompes tú la puerta? Okay, rompes tú la puerta? Or again, you have the option to leave the tú out if you choose, because rompes with this ending is unique, only to tú. So it can't be any other person. So the tú is really just kind of there as an extra addition. So we could say rompes la puerta, and that would also be perfectly correct. But if we want to clarify or to add emphasis, then we can keep tú included in our question. Okay, excelente. So that's the end of this exercise. And so as I mentioned, if you would like to take a look at this exercise again, review the video again, you're welcome to go to our website, to rolalanguages.com. You also find there links to all the other videos we've done in previous community Spanish, community French, community Mandarin, for the children's Spanish and children's French. So we have lots of content up there, so you're welcome to check that out, in addition to our upcoming course schedules and anything else that might be of interest to you. We've got lots of information up on our website. So that will be all for today. I'll see you back on Monday at 12 for the community Spanish, starting in the first week of November. Gracias y adiós.